There's plenty to take out of it. Again,
absolutely.
Quite a lot of news.
Yeah.
There's a bit going on.
Yeah. So we had an interesting game on the weekend. Wasn't pretty.
No, it wasn't. No, we'll go into that. But yeah, it's we got the 4 points.
We got the 4 points, and that's what matters.
Yeah.
And I was also happy to see we're in the 8.
Yeah.
I know.
And above Collingwood.
Well, look, yeah. And I know it's only early,
yeah.
but when I just happened to check, I was like, whoa, and I had to save at the moment.
Yeah, it kind of took me a bit by surprise. I mean, I don't know. I didn't get caught up in ladder positions and things like that. I mean, probably because we had a couple of poor games to start with and then some wins. But yeah, I didn't even realise that by the time we checked, it took me by surprise as well.
Yeah, so I think we finished up 7th on the ladder.
When it all sort of came out in the wash.
At the end of the weekend. So, interesting game on the Gold Coast. Very, very ugly game. Very, very
in many ways. Yeah, in many, many ways.
And look, definitely hot. Definitely muggy. I think the report said 80% humidity.
It was always going to be that way, I reckon. I mean, coming off watching quite a bit of cricket in the summer and things like that. They talk about even when it's normal weather, when the sun goes down, just the dew comes out instantly and everything becomes slippery. So
slippery, and we certainly saw that. But I think at the end of the weekend, what was really nice is that we had a win, and the Pies, the Scum, Richmond and Eagles lost.
Fantastic.
I was hoping for
Freo completely stuffed my tips.
I know,
but a loss for them as well would have been absolutely fantastic.
In WA, a Freo loss last night would have just
topped it off.
But not to be. G'day, Greg Sandow. Thanks for joining us. Yeah, ugly win, but a win all the same. It was the 4 points, and that's all that matters.
Definitely, yep.
We found ourselves in the top 8 as a result.
Yeah. And Brett, there so many injuries with a broken heart emoji, 100% there.
Yeah, awful week, and we'll talk about injuries pretty soon. But yeah, there was some real heartbreaking stuff that went on over the weekend. Absolutely. Certainly. So what we're going to do shortly is we'll talk about our highlights.
Yeah.
Don't forget to stay tuned for our Goose of the Week. There's a few contenders up for that one. And, of course, if you follow Blue Baggers WA page, there's also going to be a bit of a debate between Frank and I about who takes out the Rude Lid Award.
Rude Lid's hotting up the nominations this week. So
nominations this week go to Nick Cox from Essendon with his Beavis and Butthead lookalike, and Lockie Jones with his "Fuck, you're 30, dude."
You're at least 30.
You're at least 30. But look, I think it would be remiss of us to carry on without talking about something that's really upset most of us baggers all week.
The elephant in the room.
And that's our song.
Yeah.
We'd love to hear your thoughts, guys, about the media that's come out about Stephen Hagan, who has done a lot of great work in for our First Nations people, but with the revelations or his revelations that our song is originally a blackface tune. So, Frank, what were your thoughts around that?
I'll be honest with you. It's probably going to be a little bit embarrassing on my part, but I had no idea that the song originally was a blackface tune or had any racial connotations or anything like that. And it did sort of bother me a little bit, but when you sort of did some research, I mean, quick story. When I got sent the message from Simone, I was in the middle of a golf comp and I was actually helping a fellow competitor look for a lost golf ball. And I completely stopped helping him look for his ball and then started Googling stuff in the middle of a golf
You
comp.
go find your home ball.
Yeah, I was literally gobsmacked. I had to pick my jaw up off the ground. And then, like you said, you look into it and you think, geez.
Yeah.
But then you do a bit more research and you think, well, okay.
Well, I think for mine, I didn't want to be ignorant.
No, that's right.
Certainly, you know, to hear this, I'm sort of thinking, well, there's it's coming from somewhere. What's the truth around that?
Hopefully he hasn't made it up. So,
and certainly I went and had a look at Lily of Laguna lyrics. It's a beautiful song. So I thought, well, that doesn't sound right. So I did a bit of research, and I think, and I can understand where he's coming from. It was originally written in the late 1800s.
Yeah.
And it did have some racial connotations. But I think what the media has failed to capture is that the Lily of Laguna lyrics were actually corrected early in the 1900s, and still and became a beautiful love song.
Yeah.
And that was long before Carlton adopted the music and put our own words to it. So, JR, thanks for joining us. I completely agree. The song is a non-event.
I tell you, it's a non-event. But I tell you what, I was in panic mode all of Saturday, going, what in God's name is happening here? This can't be. This just can't be. So yeah, definitely. I hope it continues to be a non-event. I haven't heard a great deal talked about it since then, which is good. Fingers crossed. I mean, Carlton's assertive, maybe assertive is not quite the right term, but their media release saying, no, we've spoken to our Aboriginal past and present players, and we've explained it. You know, things are. So I don't know whether Dr. Stephen Hagen's done enough research on the topic, but yeah, he's just sort of.
Look, I think it was probably a little bit sensationalised by the media as well.
Definitely.
Particularly because they failed to mention that the original lyrics of Lily of Laguna were changed. But never mind the original lyrics. It's actually the music that we use, not the lyrics whatsoever.
And he even said himself, he goes, the Carlton Football Club have done an amazing job with the lyrics, and he just wants a new tune. Well, yeah, I just don't feel that's enough to go attack something like that.
No,
when we're hanging on to a tune that where lyrics were corrected nearly 100 years ago now.
Yeah, look, and I did like Carlton's post after the win, something to the effect of winning means that this beautiful tune gets another gig. So, hey, look, and you're quite right, JR. I think it's a non-event. It's been sensationalised by the media, I would imagine.
And that's what the media does best.
And, and as Johnny states, just change one chord and it ceases to be the same song. All right, so...
We had to address the elephant in the room.
We wanted to address that because, you know, look, it's upset a lot of us over the weekend. And, you know, any luck... We saw that on Saturday night with the boys, you know, working hard for 4 quarters. So the other thing that's come about just today,
a little bit small,
little bit of a small issue.
Yeah.
My namesake, no, not really.
Simmo, you're a Simmo.
So he's ready to put the boots back on.
He's been working hard. Apparently, he's got himself a personal trainer, and he's working his ass off to try and get another gig. Yeah.
So, what are your thoughts, Frank? Look, I think we can't be seen to be going backward, and it's certainly not fair for some of the young fellas who are in the wings waiting for a game. But I certainly think he's probably the glue that would tie up our awesome backline that we've got going at the minute.
I put one sort of theory. I mean, this is a lot of hypothetical because obviously he did get retired. I mean, he didn't want to, but he was told to. But imagine SPS moves up the ground. Paddy Dow probably doesn't play. SPS goes into a Paddy Dow sort of a role, which we've been sort of crying out to get SPS up the ground. And then Simmo slots back into SPS's position that they've been trying to shoehorn him into, that doesn't seem to be working. He's come good lately, but you know, imagine that now. That's one hypothetical that I kind of thought about and think, geez, that'd be quite good. I mean, yeah, you're right. We don't want to be going backwards.
No. And g'day, Grego. Thanks for joining us. we do hope pretty soon that you'll join us on the Western Bar, as I'm sure you hate the camera.
He's made for the camera.
For those of you who are with us, Greg and I are usually the ones bringing you footage from WA when the baggers are over here.
And the Perriers did a superb job last year when they hubbed over here for the 3 games.
Yeah,
it was good to get out and
it was great fun.
Yeah, Greg was getting on with everyone, trying to get a bit of an opinion or a prediction or just anything. So it was
just
good.
Talking to the baggers. Yeah,
just getting it on there.
And as Greg says, we've got Sard to replace Simmo, and that's quite a good point.
It is.
Yeah.
It definitely is. And that's why I think, we probably don't want to go backwards now, but just a bit of a what if. Could we squeeze Simmo in there? At this stage, I'd say he's probably just more. I mean, I personally don't think it will pick him up at all. But if we did, it'll purely be as a sub role or even just a depth player.
Yeah.
With Marchie going down again now, so potentially.
Yeah. And as JR says, Newman's taking the role. When's he due back?
I'm not sure, to be honest. I'm pretty sure someone on our comments a couple of shows ago said that he's probably still
a couple of weeks away,
and then probably a couple of twos games away. So probably to buy maybe.
I think I don't know about you, Frank, but I certainly want to. He certainly made it clear that he'd love to. He'd go anywhere where he was asked to. For one.
I would.
But I think we'd all love to see him up and about on grand final day. But I think it would be absolutely heart-wrenching if it was in any other jumper.
It would be devastating. I've made no, secrets that Stephen Silvani was my all-time hero.
Yeah.
When he left, I think it was 2000 or 2001 when that whole shitstorm happened with the salary cap and whatnot. I was pining for years. And then Simmo became my favourite player because of the heart, the determination, the courage. And then eventually, he was moved on, and it would kill me to see him in another jumper.
Yeah, look, I think it would kill us all.
But you'd have to be happy for him.
Even though we'd love to see him on a day, it's holding a cup, no matter which jumper he's wearing. Yeah. It would certainly break all of our hearts if it was in any other jumper.
Yeah, it would, definitely.
And JR says Newman's 3 or 4 weeks away.
Yep.
Greg reckons he can go to Hawthorn. Well, he hasn't got a hope in hell of getting a grand final this year, if that was to happen. So anyway, look, I guess we'll just have to watch this space. At the end of the day,
he's not.
He was tapped on the shoulder for a reason, and I can't see Carlton going back on that.
No, they won't. And I'm talking purely from a nostalgic, even though it was only sort of last year, but from a nostalgic point of view that I'd love to see him, but it's never going to happen. Not in a million years.
Yeah. So, there was a lot of good stuff to take out of the game. And for those of you who've joined us, we'd love to hear your highlights of Saturday night's game. I'm just going to go straight off the top here. And it was an ugly game of footy. Absolutely no other way to describe it. And it was 12 minutes into the first quarter before we even scored a major. But the passage of play that led to that major was absolutely beautiful.
It was. Yeah, that was...
So Cottrell intercepted the ball and SPS crumbed it. He's picked it up. It's got a handball to Walsh. It's gone to Weeders. Then over to Murph. Over to Betts. Over to Murph. And check side back.
They wound back the hands of time.
Yeah.
Those two for that passage.
Yeah.
And for the rest of the game, really. But, yeah, that was, very, very up and about after that.
Yeah.
Even though I was up and about and very down and about and then very up and about and very down and about, it was one of those sort of games where you got up and then
it was hard to stay in one emotion during that game.
Impossible. Yeah.
But that actual passage of play, and I think it showed the experience, particularly of Murph and Betts, in the clean passage of play to finish nicely with a goal.
Yeah, just the composure. Eddie Betts took a nice mark, didn't fumble around, which had happened for 90% of the first quarter up to that point. and a hand back to Murphy. Again, there was no fumbling, and then a nice. I say a nice goal, but that's one of the harder goals to kick. A check side snap on the run. That's not a 1-2-3 goal. That one.
Yeah, but it is a bit of a Murph special.
Yeah, he's 100% known for it.
But. Yeah. And look, I think that whole passage of play puts all the doubters to bed in terms of Murph and SPS in particular.
Yep.
Because that bit of crumbing from SPS was beautiful. And yeah, so what were some of your highlights, guys?
Scroll this somewhere.
All right. So Greg, Betts dribble from boundary. Love the look he gave fans and pointed to himself. Like, I don't think we're going to have a game going forward the rest of the season where we're not expecting an Eddie.
No, he's good for one
special.
of those. He's good for one of those a game, I reckon.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I think that was certainly one of my highlights. Vintage Ed.
Yeah.
And up and about with the fans at the goals there.
He loves it. He loves that bit of that little showy sort of, emotion, especially when he kicks it from Eddie's pocket and then he goes and interacts with the crowd. He's always done it.
Yeah.
Good to see.
So what was some other highlights of yours, Frank?
For mine, I think work rate was probably number one. We were up and down, as I said. It was hard to get a real sort of flow on, trying to score repeatedly. We did a couple of times, but I feel like every time they came back, which they did a couple of times and got in front at one point, the work rate is what got us back. So we had a core group of players that worked a lot harder than others, and that's what dragged us back in over the line. So we'll go through our best ons a little bit later on, but you're saying blokes that are just running your 16, 17 kilometres a game and just working their ass off just to drag us over the line. So that's definitely a highlight for me. We touched on Eddie Betts. I mean, if there was a footballer that had the eggplant emoji for mine, it's Eddie Betts. Every time he goes near the ball, my heart sort of skips a beat because something mercurial is going to happen. Yeah,
something magic, something nice.
Something's going to happen. So,
another one of my highlights was I have to talk about Jonesy, my boyfriend down back.
How many boyfriends have you got?
I got a few.
You got quite a few.
There's a few of them. They all wear the blue jumper though. His intercepts and his marking was absolutely amazing. And when you look at the stats, Weeders kept who was he on again?
King. Ben King, yeah.
Weeders kept King quiet and
kept him quiet. Stuck him in his pocket and said, "You just stay there for the night, mate."
Sit down and shut up.
He got one early. In the first 30 seconds, and pretty much was unsighted for the rest of the game. So,
and Jones was able to get out and about and stop the flow, and so I just love everything he does. He does it with heart.
Yeah.
And he definitely does it for the jumper, I reckon.
Yeah.
G'day, Vicky Ann. Thanks for joining us. Nice for you to have you here. Greg says Liam Jones 2 weeks in a row outstanding. Absolutely.
And it's not like he wasn't, excellent in the weeks leading up to.
No.
I mean, when we did have those couple of losses, there were sections of social media in particular of fans and things like that saying he was in the bottom 3 or 4 players in the team and should be looking to be dropped and all this sort of shit. I mean, that's just absolute rubbish. Yeah. Absolute rubbish. He's first picked every single week. Don't even worry about that. And he showed why the last couple of weeks.
JR, I'll talk about this tomorrow. But SPS ready to explode. Absolutely agree. Yeah. He was on fire.
Ever since Simone cooked him early.
I cooked him in round 1.
Cooked him in the pre-season.
I gave him a call and I said, you better put your head in. So, and he's given us all what we wanted.
Pull it out your bum. And he's sorted that out. So
yeah.
Any other players that are playing poorly, we'll get you on a call, a Zoom call with Simmo.
Yeah, I'll give you a call, give you a blast.
Fix that game right up. Don't worry about that.
No, but it was so wonderful to see SPS giving us all what we've been asking for.
I tell you what, with SPS, it's gone night and day, I reckon. Like, I mean, we weren't the only ones that were saying he should have a spell in the twos.
No.
And as some were saying, move up the ground. But, I mean, he literally flicked a switch, and he's now one of the most composed, poised players we've got. He gets the ball in hand, and he doesn't look like that deer in the headlights that
No.
you know, he did in the first couple of
It's
rounds.
got self-belief.
At points last year. Yeah, it has. Yeah, it's, you know, I think JR said on his show last week that, you know, when he gets the ball now, he doesn't look to feed it straight away. He's got time. He takes a step. He thinks about his next move. And other times it is just a shimmy and then a few more steps and then a kick. And I think that real composure is really what's changed the most. I mean, I've always known he's always been an elite kick. He's always been an elite ball user. But that extra composure now just to settle the nerves or whatever and then distribute the ball, it does a really good job.
Yeah, and look, I think what we're seeing now is the bull rider that we were hoping for. You know, take no prisoners and just take them down.
Being a bull rider, he's certainly not afraid of, you know,
getting hurt. No. And
he,
you know, with his tackles and everything on the weekend, and previously last weekend, we saw an improvement as well. So you're quite right, JR. I reckon he's about to explode.
Yeah.
And we'll all be happy days. Sorry, guys. King was owned. He absolutely was owned.
Yeah. As I said, he found himself in Weeder's pocket, and I mean, when Weeder's got home back to the hotel after the game, he's taking all the stuff out of his phone and his wallet, and Ben King comes out of his pocket. What are you doing here, mate? I've been stuck in your pocket all night, mate. You know, absolutely looked like a dickhead.
Yeah. And as Grego has mentioned, Matty Cottrell deserves a spot each week, plays with heart and doesn't. Stuff up. Fuck up. Look, he was also one of my highlights. I love the way he gets about his footy and that goal with him.
Do we know what is he just making it rain, or is that,
I don't know,
but
it's a money thing or something.
Yeah,
but it was so cool.
Yep.
I love his celebrations. I love his grunt and all his second efforts. He just keeps going.
It's work rate.
Yeah.
For me, it's work rate. That's one thing I mentioned off the top.
Yeah.
Whether you're the most skillful player on the side or the least skillful, if you work your ass off, you'll get a spot. You'll get a spot, definitely, and he's showing that.
Yeah, absolutely. One of the other things I just wanted to point out that was my highlights of the week, not off the game, was the fact that young Slater, who had a 24-hour contract with the boys, he got the 4 points for his debut. Bless him.
Fantastic.
When I saw
they do little things like that.
If you haven't seen the video, go and have a look of Teague and the boys taking him out training and stuff. Young fella that's not doing well. And I cried because I'm just like, I love my club. That's just amazing.
Yeah.
Love that the boys are stopping the run from opposition after 2-3 goals, pulling it back and scoring themselves. Runs of 6+ goals in a row against us, hopefully long gone. Completely agree.
Yep. Pretty straightforward, that one.
Yeah. We're certainly seeing a different side this year. And I think that leads on to one of my other highlights is 4 full quarters put in. And all the second, third, fourth efforts, and
I'm not convinced that's 4 full quarters yet. I reckon I might be slightly pessimistic, but I reckon we're still a little bit off there. But we're definitely heading in the right direction. And I said on last week's show, we got to crawl before we walk. So we can't be talking about kicking 20 goals, a 20-goal win or anything like that yet. We just got to make sure we do grind out those wins, because that's what good sides do. They grind out wins, whether they against the top team or the bottom team. So once you start learning and building that winning habit, the rest will follow.
Yeah, absolutely. One of my other highlights is loved seeing people put their bodies on the line. So JSOS and that tackle.
That won us the game, I reckon. I reckon it was still. I mean, I think we were at that point we're up by a goal. Or I can't quite remember. I know we're up by. It wasn't much, but that and then H went back and slotted it.
Yeah,
that tackle it sums up JSOS in a sentence. Really, he's just full of heart.
Yeah,
and will do whatever it takes. Team first.
One of the things I didn't worry about, obviously he's probably out next week, and I'm keen to hear if anyone's heard any updates on him.
He'll probably be like Kane, your husband's shoulders.
Yeah. He was out with his shoulder only a couple of weeks ago, and he doesn't care. He doesn't shy away. Oh, okay, I'll go again, and bang.
Yep.
We'll have to start calling him Mel Gibson soon.
What a reference. The Weapon 4.
and of course the other fellows that put their bodies on the line that stood out for me particularly were Cooper every day of the week, Jones and Cottrell. Of course there was a few others, but they're the ones that stood out in terms of putting their body on the line.
The one I saw was Fogarty. Now he by his lofty standards already was a little bit quiet possessions wise, but all that work rate you don't get stats for was showing. So there was one instance he bodylined a ball, it was sort of bubbling around, and there was a Gold Coast player coming his way. He put his head down, he wanted the ball just at slightly bit more, and you could see the Gold Coast player, I forget his name now, he sort of lifted up his head at the last minute and thought, nah, I'm going to get smashed and pulled out like a chicken shit.
Yeah.
And that was Fogarty there. We saw Gibbo take a head knock.
Oh, yeah. Look, I wasn't convinced he wasn't okay. You know,
he's either a really good actor or he was fine, because some people have heads that are different. The skull might be an inch thicker or what, but you know.
And then you see him do a little bit of tipsy McStagger on the field, and
then he was fine.
Yeah, I don't know, but even on the bench when the cameras are on him, I'm thinking, oh, you're looking a bit not quite there in the eyes. But obviously the doctors know what they're doing. So
he was fine. He's just got a rock hard head. There's probably not a lot in the head, so it is rock hard. Not a problem at all. I tell you what, talking about head knocks. One thing I liked, and it's now it shouldn't be in my highlight, but it is quite funny.
What's that?
Sean Lemons. He was the one that knocked himself out on Levi's ribcage. Now, we don't want to take the piss out of anybody for getting concussed, but what a fucking donkey. Absolutely. Just running, forgot to stop, look, and then just ate Levi's ribcage at full tilt.
How come he isn't in our Goose of the Week?
Well, I've just nominated him.
Don't forget, guys, before we're finished, we will announce who is the winner of Goose of the Week. So far, our nominations are City of Malvern, Parks and Gardens, whoever they are that did the gold post.
Absolutely butchered that up.
Damien Hardwick with his borrowing players.
Yeah. I can't develop my players in the ones, so can you develop them for me? North Melbourne, you're a terrible team, so take my dregs and develop them for me. You gotta be
and it sounds like this mate Lemon is up for a nomination as well.
Sean Lemons, yeah.
So throw in your nominations for Goose of the Week, because they could finish up winning. Oh, and before we move on, here's Goose of the Week. That was really a duck. But anyway.
That was terrible. That went down a lot worse than I thought it was going to.
It wasn't funny.
Anyway, I'm sure we got a comment.
All right, moving along. So we got Jimmy James. Thanks for joining us, mate. The Blues made the wrong call to get rid of Simmo before his time. Hopefully he gets another opportunity at another club to prove the doubters wrong. He would fit in at the club like the Dogs. Yeah, that would be cool. That's probably the only jumper I would stomach seeing him in.
There's no jumper I'd stomach seeing him in. But when you remove yourself from the emotion, someone like Simmo does deserve a chance if his body's right and his mind's right and ready to go, then yeah, he definitely deserves another shot for sure. But
yeah,
I don't give me nightmares.
Yeah, absolutely.
Woody's been.
It would be tough. Absolutely tough.
You've cooked the comments here, mate.
Oh,
You've rambled and just spoke shit here, and we've missed all these comments. I think
we're both ramblers, you know. So, g'day, cuz. Big and exciting couple of weeks ahead. If they work hard enough, we can win both. Think the Gov needs to come back in though.
100%.
Yep.
Yeah. We'll be talking about ins and outs later, but Gov just slotted in another 3 snags in the 2s.
Yeah. How many weeks is it? Has he been in the 2s?
2 games, but I think the problem is they're both practice matches. So, but at the same time, you can only play what's in front of you. So,
well, that's right.
He's led up hard. He's taken good marks and he's kicked good goals. So, I reckon we're just about ready to slot him in.
Sorry.
And I'll save it for a bit later. We're going to talk about it a bit later on.
How do we stop Port's forwards?
Charlie Dixon stops himself. Don't even bother. He's a donkey.
Fev needs to teach us goal kicking.
That he does.
Yeah. We'd all love to have the Fev back teaching the goal kicking. And he would love to be back. So I think that's a.
He put up an offer, didn't he? I don't know. On one of the social medias.
I saw something. Yeah.
He come up and said, "I'm open for a job if you want me some goal kicking practice." But, and I'd have him back. I love the Fev.
Yeah. No, it'd be good to see him back around.
Yeah.
We've got another.
The weekly nom.
We've got the. He might get it this week. Goose of the week. Trevor Waller. Look,
I don't. Every week.
No. Well, he might get it this week. You just never know. But I would like to know what for. Is it his face? Bryce Rawson. We're not going to beat Port unless we make 4 genuine changes. Bring in Stocker, Kennedy, full game. Gov, and obviously Williams will come back in. I
don't know that Williams will come in. He's injured. He injured himself.
Zach Williams, yeah.
Oh, Zach Williams. I beg your pardon. Sorry.
Yeah. But he's injured.
Yeah. I'm not sure whether he's coming straight back in. So.
Yeah. Look.
It's a tough one, and I think the same thing that happened just before the Freo game when we dropped half the side. We had those couple of injuries in Fish and Williams
and Martin.
Martin, sorry, yeah. And so a couple of players that probably would have got dropped otherwise stayed in the side and then played really good games. So they kind of got a bit lucky there. I think the same thing's going to happen this week. I reckon if we're talking about dropping blokes, we've got a couple of injuries to look out for in Jesus and.
Shall that lead us straight into our what didn't impress us and our ins and outs? Because there's a bloke who keeps copping it a bit, and to be fair, I think I've probably dished it up a bit too. Plowman.
We both dropped him, and we sat here and ate humble pie the week after when he towed up Sonny.
Yeah.
From Freo.
But even after the weekend, he was actually quite effective.
Yeah, absolutely.
In the back line there.
Absolutely.
So yeah, look, I'm not sure.
I think Plough played on Sexton for most of the night.
Was it Sexton or Rankin?
I think they swapped around a little bit, but I mean, I know Sexton didn't have an impact until Plough was off when he got that knee knock and stumbled off. But yeah.
Well, I mean, he had 16 possessions, which isn't bad, but of that, he was 81% effective.
Yeah, I think with defenders, we don't. Those sort of defenders, anyway, the taller ones don't sort of get measured on the amount of touches. They're sort of like, sometimes Jones has had more spoils than he's had actual possessions and been in the top 3 or 4 players on the day. So, but yeah, that's the sort of stuff that we're looking for, and yeah.
So, Joseph, thanks for joining us, buddy. I think the Plough will be out injured this week. Yeah, look,
he did play the rest of the game, though.
He looked a bit dodged, though.
He did, but as long as there's no structural damage, I mean, if it is just a knee-on-knee knock.
And Teague did say that there wasn't any.
No PCL damage done, then I can't see him missing. But
No.
my main concern, obviously, Jesus, he's probably not going to play.
Yep.
The other thing, I don't know if anyone else saw, but I know there was reports about it, but Saad looked super groggy towards the end of the game. Yeah, his knees.
Something's not right.
His knees are cooked.
Yeah.
And so don't be surprised if he's a laid out.
He gets rested.
I reckon he would have had a jab to get up.
Yep.
For the Gold Coast game. So, and he was limping big time by the end of the game, and he worked his ass off.
He still worked really hard.
He was making contests and really digging in, but the moment the ball sort of moved away from his area, then he started limping again, and you just know that there's going to be some more to come of that. So, yeah, there's a couple of injuries there. So maybe some of those players that that fellow, who was it? I can't even remember. Talked about the four main changes. Some people are going to get lucky at Bryce. Yeah.
I think
we're going to need to make some changes, but
I
think some of the ones that you're probably alluding to are probably going to get lucky again because we've got a couple of injuries.
Absolutely. And just on that, poor old Marchie, having done an ACL.
It's crazy. When he got through, I don't know, a quarter of the game or something like that, and then just broke down. So, not great news at all. Not great news at all.
No, and you feel for the fella, don't you?
He's a genuine superstar if he can string good chunks of games together. He was a very low draft pick originally when he went to the Giants. I don't think we gave up too much to get him in the end, but he's a really good player. And when he's up and about, he's probably more your sort of wingman than he is, even though he's played off the halfback flank a little bit. But he's going to be 12 months and he's going to be sorely missed.
And like you say, I think there'll be fellas that'll get a run as a result of. Levi needs to smarten up. What's your thoughts there, Frank?
Smarten up. Look, I reckon the Gold Coast proved that the backup ruckman story that I went with last week with Levi, and I was saying that basically the backup ruckman's probably just going to keep him in the side. I reckon the Gold Coast proved that there's no need to keep a bloke in a side if all he is your backup ruckman. I was a bit disappointed with his game.
Look, he did a couple of great things. I think
I reckon there was more Benny Hill moments than there was great things, mate. I mean, 50 metres, 45 metres out from goal, beautiful set shot. It come off his knee. I reckon that straight off his knee. And there was others. I mean, he was tackling blokes that didn't have the ball and then arguing with the umpire about it. He was, in a 3-on-1 situation, Carlton's way, and he managed to get towed up by Took Miller. All he had to do was handball it to one of the blokes running past him, and Took Miller just took him down and won the ball. I mean, it was just a bit disappointing from Levi. And I said last week that the backup ruckman thing's probably the only thing keeping him in the side.
I think so. Yeah.
That's running out pretty quick because we've got
some forwards in the wings.
Yeah, and the other thing I went looking at was, who's tall enough that can do that 10 or 15% in the ruck to give Pitnet a rest. We certainly won't be putting Harry in there. You don't put your Rolls Royce in the ruck.
No.
But even Lockie Plowman's 192, 193 centimetres. If he can pinch it in the ruck for 5 or 10% of the game, 15% of the game, enough to give Pitnet a rest, that's all we need.
Yeah,
we can get someone else in like Gov. Who I reckon is definitely knocking on the door after 2 good games in the
twos. He's not far away, I wouldn't imagine.
But I think the other thing that really let us down was our forward dynamic in general. I mean, Eddie Betts.
Last week they did a good job of keeping Big H clear.
And that was all Eddie Betts.
I think Casbolt did a little bit of that as well.
Yeah, potentially.
Yeah, but this week Harry was absolutely mobbed. At least for the first half.
Yeah, he was.
Couldn't get a look at it. Yeah. Could not get a look at it. So you got to look at your other forwards and go, what are you guys doing?
Yeah, and realistically, I mean, if we're talking about medium to big forwards, so you've got Levi and then Jesus is a medium sort of a forward. He worked his ass off. Levi didn't. But then
Gibbo
did, and then you're into your small forwards, but which always work their ass off. I think I think what Gov brings is a different sort of, because he's not a big power key forward like Harry or Levi. He is maybe on the medium side, but he just adds a different element.
He does,
of a key forward. So I reckon that's where
love to hear your thoughts on that. Because certainly one of the things that didn't impress me on the weekend was forward line dynamic, in that Harry was pretty well mobbed. Sure, he could have come up the way a little bit, but every time I looked at him, he had 2 or 3 blokes on him.
And you just touched on it there. I don't know whether it's his decision to make, but I thought if Harry didn't get his first possession until very late in the second quarter, and now I don't know if it's his decision to wander up the ground, even just across a half-back line and get a couple of cheap touches just to get his fingers on the leather, or whether that's Dave Teague's decision to send the runner out to say, right, H, you're getting 2-on-1 here. Yeah. Get up the ground, get a touch, get a kick, stick Levi in the goal square.
Well, I think
it definitely needed to happen.
I think part of it he was getting a bath, Harry, and I think it was indicative with Ed Curno's goal. I forget which quarter it was, but do you remember when they needed video evidence of whether the two fellas that were on Harry, like, they were stuck to him like freaking glue,
shit to a blanket, and forgot to even punch the ball through.
Yeah. So they never, they were miles away from the ball.
Yeah.
But I think that bit of footage was indicative to how much they were tagging the shit out of him.
Yeah. And look, and that's fine, and that's the sort of player that Harry is, right? When you think about it, he's going to take the best defender plus probably the third best defender, right? If you've got a Gov there or Levi when he was sort of hitting up and taking big marks, that's the difference. While they're worrying about what H is doing, the other one's getting off the hook and kicking goals.
Right.
So
yeah, interesting, isn't it?
Yep.
And of course, some of the other things that we didn't like was obviously Jay Sauce's injury, Gibbons' clash, but Parks. I know it was only his second match up and about. He did absolutely bugger all, and I think that was the missing link in our back line, as good as it was.
Back line's pretty strong. Geez, that's a big comment. Good luck reading that. Yeah, I reckon though, when he sort of half bumped and half tackled Jack Lukosius, and then he used the ground with his face to stop himself. That was brilliant. He broke his nose. But you're right. He didn't. It's just second game blues. I reckon it happens to a lot of players because they're so adrenaline filled for their debut or their first game. So they're more up and about. The second game is sort of lulls because that a real adrenaline rush is sort of. He should get another game, I reckon. We won't be dropping him on that, I don't think. Give him another crack at it and see what comes up after.
Yeah. I think, given it was only his second game, and, let's be fair, Weeders and Jones was quite deadly in the back line.
That's a dynamic duo, that one.
Yeah, so, I guess we just have to go easy on the boy.
I think so.
Jeff O'Day, thanks for joining us, mate. I watched the game again specifically to watch Dow and Setters did off the ball and around the stoppages. Setters just needs a few games to find touch and go. No doubt is everybody's whipping boy, but it looks to me
not mine.
He has been told to work on his defensive skills. He was hesitant, often a little out of position, and just seemed to overthink it a bit and didn't back his strengths. He laid 3 good tackles and had some terrific clean pickups. So I don't agree he's soft at all. What do you think?
I'm definitely Dow's not my whipping boy. I've gone into bat with him every single week this year so far. He just does enough that somebody else gets looked at for being dropped.
Yeah.
This week maybe is probably a step too far for that sort of thing.
Yeah. Look, he's had 4 weeks in.
Yeah. He's still got hope as being. Do you know what really he's going to get to me? Is I reckon he's going to get let go, whether it be traded, delisted, or what. It's probably going to happen because he's been on the list long enough. And then I reckon he goes to another club and then becomes that inside bull that we'd be looking at replacing Ed Curnow with. At another club, and that would shit me to absolute tears because I reckon he is as was that Gregory? Was it? Is it Jeffrey, suggested that he's been told to work on his defensive side of his game. Why not get him into a tagging role, just as a run with player? Because eventually, I mean, Ed's 30, 31 now. He's not going to play forever.
No,
and he plays a pivotal role in our midfield in stopping our opposition's number one midfielder. I reckon that potentially is Paddy Dow's future.
Yeah. Look, I'm not. I think I agree with Jeff in the sense that we need to bear with him a little bit. Send him back to the twos. Let him find himself, because I think it's there. But is he taking a spot of someone at the moment that deserves to be there?
Before this week, I would have said no. After this week, then potentially, yeah. He's he didn't have the greatest game. I don't think he had the worst game, but and could he be one of the ones that I suggested will get a bit lucky because somebody else got injured?
Yeah.
This week.
Yeah, well, it's interesting, and that leads us to our ins and outs. What sort of changes do you think we'll see this week, Frank?
It depends on the injuries, and I mean, we know. Well, we don't know, but we're confident Jesus isn't playing next week.
Yeah, look,
I've got question marks.
I haven't heard any updates on Jesus.
I haven't, and nor Sard, which is the other player I've got question marks next to.
To be fair, I think it would be a little bit early to have an update on those.
I would say so. Don't want to get all the right information.
Yeah.
So if we include those as injured, because I'm pretty confident.
So if we say that Jesus and Sard are both out due to injury, what are your thoughts on Plough? Do you think he'd be out injured?
No.
You think he's all right?
I think he'll be fine.
Just a bit of bruising?
Just a bit of a bone, even if it's a bone bruising. I think he played out the game. I reckon he'll play no problem.
Yeah. For mine, Frank, I don't know about you, but if Jack's out, I want if Gov's ready, Gov. If not, Omac.
Why not both?
Why not both?
That burrito commercial. Why not both? Because I've got Levi in my outs this week. Definitely.
Yeah. I'm not sure he'll go because of the whole backup ruck.
Yeah.
I think he still does enough to probably stay on the list.
On the list, yeah, but
in the side.
No, I don't think so. I think he's going to be having a look in the twos, I reckon, because he's also on the wrong side of 30. So I've got my 4 outs. I have got Dow in the outs this week because, like I said, I wanted to give Parks another go, and I can't think of anybody else that's going to get dropped based on their performances. So Dow, Sard, Levi, and J Sauce are going to be out. 2 injured, 2 omitted.
Yeah.
I tell you one out of left field. Now I had a look at the VFL report. Sam Ramsey had an absolute blinder in the twos. He's listed as a key defender, but they played him as a midfielder. And he had a billion possessions. He kicked 2 goals. So there's a look in there if there is an extra injury to Sard, because I think that's a straight swap. If you're a defender that runs through the midfield and then manages to snag 2 goals, that's going to be a straight replacement for Sard if Sard's injured, which looking at him, I reckon he is. Gov, Kennedy, and Stocker for mine.
Look, I like. I think Dow should be given a rest. Well, not a rest. Have a go in the twos.
Yeah.
And I want to see Kennedy in for him. That was another one of my highlights I forgot to mention is seeing that gorgeous smile on the field, even if it was only for 10 minutes. And when you consider the impact between the two fellas, it's like chalk and cheese. I think the stats was only 2 disposals between them, and one had 10 minutes of game time and the other had a lot more.
Yeah.
So, for mine, Dow out, Kennedy in. Yeah. Jack out injured. So I would like to see Omac or Gov there. And like I say, more than likely Gov. I was not sure about Parks. He was a little bit ineffective. But I think given it was only his second game, I'll probably leave that there.
And I think the other thing that might save Parks is that Port Adelaide's forwards aren't going terribly well at the moment.
Yeah.
So I think he'll survive one more week. But yeah, definitely could have had a bit better of a game.
So Jeff O'Day reckons Williams, Gov and Stock are in, and until injuries named, not sure who's out.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're quite right. Yeah.
It's hard to speculate.
We don't really know. I think as far as JSOS goes, we can only really go off the last time it happened.
Yeah.
He had a week off.
Well, if you're just based on omissions, then the two I have are Levi and Dow.
Okay. Yeah. Well, I mean, if we took Levi out, who goes out in for him? Gov.
Yep.
Gov.
Yep.
Yeah.
Sure. Because the other thing is Port Adelaide's defence is really good. Alir is absolutely on fire at the moment. Tom Jonas is just the main defender, and they've got another one. The name evades me now, but their defenders are pretty good. So we want to make sure our forward line is 100% ready to go, because we're going to get found out otherwise.
Yeah,
we are absolutely found out. So
and we don't want to do that.
We can't be taking no passengers.
No. Bryce, his ins and outs are JSOS, Plowman, Dow and Levi. In is Kennedy, Stocker, Gov and Williams, if fit. Have to agree with that. I like that as well.
Yeah, that's some good suggestions. For mine, Plows, he's not going anywhere.
Yeah.
But, yeah. Interesting.
All right. So that leads us into, if you've got any other thoughts about ins and outs, let us know. But that leads us into, we need to decide who is the winner of the Rude Lid. So if this is your first time joining us, each week we have Rude Lid of the Week, and that is usually a player.
Not us.
Not us, because he's already got it. But
we win most weeks, but
yeah, it's a player, and we decide who is Rude Lid of the Week. So I'm just going to throw up a graphic here so that you guys can help us decide. We'd love to hear your thoughts. Put your comments in. Who wins Rude Lid of the Week this week between Nick Cox or Lockie Jones? Throw your comments in. Both.
Let us know. Both are some ugly boys, but we'll go into debate mode now. Now, I reckon I'm in the Nick Cox category to win this, because that haircut hasn't got any other name besides the butthead. At least Lockie Jones's haircut has a name.
No, look, I think Lockie Jones, I think he deserves the gong, because it was his debut. It was his birthday. And
his 31st birthday.
Yeah, he looks 30. What would you say if your daughter brought that fella home?
Given his size, probably not much. No, but you're right. I'd be probably, showing him my cricket bat.
Yeah.
Repeatedly.
Yeah. So, what are your thoughts, guys? Who gets Rude Lid of the Week? We did run a poll on Blue Baggers WA page.
So far, Nick Cox is winning 6-2. So
yeah. So look,
with a head like that,
unless we get any other votes in, looks like it's going to be Nick Cox.
Nick Cox he was going to win. There was no way you were getting that across the line, mate. The moment you put that up on the page, I thought, oh, what's she doing here? She's trying to one up me, but no, everyone was on my side. Thank you very much, fam.
Okay, then. So the winner of Rude Lid of the Week is, where is he? There he is, Nick Cox.
Very
absolute
good.
Star.
Yeah, ugly as a hatful of assholes.
Look, to be fair, it could have been either of them. They both play for arsehole clubs.
Absolutely. One other thing I just wanted to touch on before we move on to the next topic. How good was it seeing old Stewie Jew getting around? Now, the reason I suggest that is because, like myself, Stewie Jew has a giant roof over his tool shed. I like to see a big fat boy getting around and waving some tuck shop lady arms at players and things like that. So there's one little thing I just thought I'd slide in there, because I'm 120 kilos, so I'm a big old boy, but yeah, it's good to see Stewie Jew doing it for us fatties to Yeah, but yeah, it's a big old roof over the tool shed, that one. You can see he's got his shirt tucked in and his belt on. There's some solid overhang there. but impressive all the same.
All right. So, Frank, we've got the next very important award, weekly award of
This is the main one.
Goose of the Week.
And again, as much as Simone probably would sew it up most weeks, we can't win the award.
And as much as John wants Trev to win it,
unless you
see the evidence.
Exactly. Unless JR puts up a decent sort of a reason as to why, then we're probably not going to give it to Trev. But
the nominees are City of Melbourne with their goalposts.
yeah.
Also, Damien Hardwick with his loaning players.
Yeah. I can't develop my players because I've got a premiership side, so can you develop them for me?
Yeah, and Stephen Hagan with changing our song.
It's a tough one. It is
a tough one. Who do you think gets the award? Look, I can't help. Hello.
Goosey.
I can't help thinking it goes to the City of Melbourne.
Yeah.
Well done, Goose of the Week, City of Melbourne. All right, I think we'll wrap it up now, Frank.
Yep.
Now, we can't wait to watch you guys on the telly. If you're heading to the G to watch Carlton versus Port Adelaide, scream loud. We loved the sound of you guys in Queensland last week. That's pretty much all we could hear.
Yeah.
And before we wrap up, just remember, if you're in WA, get on to the Blue Baggers WA function, which is for game day at the Carlton. Also, get on to Blue Baggers WA Facebook page so we can chat about game stuff and everything in WA. And, and for all of you guys heading to the G for the game, shout one for us. Go Blues.
Gun Blues.